Brooke begins to sense an undercurrent of unrest that threatens to shatter the fragile facade of peace at Forrester Creations. When she proposes a new fashion show with her usual confidence, Brooke is unprepared for the direct challenge from Taylor, the woman she once declared her best friend, with whom she formed a sisterly alliance to end the cycle of rivalry over Rich. But now that friendship is no longer a shield against simmering jealousy and ambition. Taylor, with her characteristic calm but firm demeanor, openly opposes Brooke's plan and proposes an opposing idea, a contemporary fashion show that celebrates strong, independent women who are beyond the shadow of men. Brooke is unhappy to see her idea overlooked, and even more so to see Taylor supported by Rich. Inwardly, she feels overwhelmed, as if her affection and place in the company and Ridge's heart are being threatened. When Steffi publicly sides with Taylor, citing new generations need a new icon, Brooke begins to question the loyalty of everyone around her. She feels isolated and even betrayed. Brooke reacts violently, not afraid to point out her own past accomplishments and argue that without her, Forrester Creations would not have made the leap to the top of the market that it has. Taylor responds calmly but sharply, saying that Brooke's past accomplishments are no excuse to stop her progress. The tension quickly erupts into a silent war between two women who have declared an end to fighting over men. Ridge, caught in the middle, feels exhausted and lost. He begins to wonder if his decision to remain neutral has been the biggest mistake of his life. Steffi is increasingly frustrated with Brooke and fears that Logan will once again try to manipulate her father. Meanwhile, Hope feels trapped between her mother and the company, unwilling to choose sides, but unable to continue to ignore her mother's obsession with losing control. At a board meeting, Brooke and Taylor confront each other in front of the entire company. Brooke accuses Taylor of using her relationship with Ridge to manipulate power. Taylor points out that Brooke is living in the past, that she always believes everything belongs to her just because she is Brooke Logan. The situation culminates when Taylor suggests that Brooke be removed from the fashion project so that Forrester can go in a new, more modern and feminist direction. The proposal shocks everyone. Ridge does not speak, a terrifying silence that makes Brooke understand that she has lost the support of her former supporter. Meanwhile, Donna tries to pull Eric to Brooke's side, but Eric, with his health failing, chooses to stay out of the fray. Zend, Paris, and RJ are forced to choose sides, splitting the company in two, one side supporting Brooke, the other leaning toward Taylor. Things are suddenly chaotic, no longer a unified Forrester. Even Carter can't stay neutral when Hope begins to question his loyalty to her mother. In a private moment, Taylor visits Eric and confides that she doesn't want to fight Brooke, but if Brooke doesn't back down, she'll have to fight for what she believes in. Eric warns Taylor that when Brooke's pushed to the wall, she'll stop at nothing. Taylor's wariness is heightened, and as predicted, Brooke secretly plans a fashion show to rival Taylor's, a private event called Logan Legacy. She didn't need the approval of the board, but relied on her personal reputation and outside connections to call on investors to back her. As the show date approached, both the media and the fashion world began to focus on the symbolic confrontation between the two women who were once sisters in arms. The show would be the place to decide not only who would lead the future of Forrester Creations, but also the final competition between the two icons Logan and Hayes, a battle not only for power, but also for honor, love, and belief in the path each chose. And Ridge, though he didn't say anything, was quietly watching and wondering which woman was truly suitable to accompany him on the final journey of his life. Los Angeles held its breath as the two shows, Logan Legacy and Empowerment by Hayes, were held exactly a week apart. The media dubbed it the fight of the century, as two iconic women in fashion went head-to-head not only on design, but also on faith, memory, and tearful personal histories. Brooke focused all her resources on a spectacular show, using her celebrity to rally veteran designers to support her. Hope joined her mother as creative director, though she was still skeptical about Brooke's true motives. Paris, Donna, and Katie stayed behind the scenes, trying to keep Brooke grounded, but also starting to worry that her emotions were getting the better of her. Taylor, on the other hand, took a community approach, inspired by women's recovery from trauma, betrayal, and loss. She brought in new faces from the fashion world, people with little fame but a story to tell. Steffi took the lead in bringing her mother's vision to life, using her connections with European media to spread the message of the show. Meanwhile, Ridge, caught between two worlds, grew increasingly dispirited. He felt like an icon torn in two by two women who once claimed to love him with all their hearts, but now wanted nothing more than to outdo each other. The first night of Logan Legacy was a glittering affair, with lights shining on the front row of celebrities, journalists, and investors. When Brooke took the stage at the end of the show in her iconic white silk gown, the crowd rose to their feet. But the success could not hide the blank look in Ridge's eyes, who left without a word. Taylor got the news just as Brooke's show was ending, and she knew it meant a fight that would never end. A week later, Empowerment by Hayes took place in a completely different atmosphere, down-to-earth, emotional, and deeply human. The models were not superstars, but women who had experienced domestic violence, loss, cancer, and recovery from depression. Their walks were imperfect, but their eyes were fiery and full of life. At the end of the show, Taylor did not walk out alone, but led the models down the catwalk, holding hands as a declaration that fashion was no longer the privilege of the elite, but the voice of every human being. Ridge was there. This time he stayed until the end, and when he stood up, he said nothing to Taylor. He just stood, clapping slowly, his eyes welling up as if he had found something he had lost a long time ago. The next day, the magazines were divided. One half hails Brooke as the uncrowned queen of fashion, the other calls Taylor the warrior of modern emotion. But within Forrester Creations itself, a new storm is brewing. Donna discovers that one of Taylor's key designs from the show bears a striking resemblance to an old sketch Brooke once kept. Immediately, suspicions of plagiarism arise. Brooke angrily calls for an internal investigation, while Taylor denies it and says it's just a creative coincidence. Steffi steps in to protect her mother, but accidentally discovers a file Thomas once kept of internal drawings that were leaked during Brooke's time away from the company. Hope begins to suspect Thomas himself, who she thought was truly changing. Chaos spreads throughout Forrester as the question arises, is someone deliberately trying to create conflict between Brooke and Taylor by manipulating information? While everyone is busy searching for the traitor, Ridge suddenly announces his resignation from the board of directors, leaving a powerful seat vacant. This causes the war to move beyond aesthetics and into internal politics. Brooke and Taylor are forced to face off once again, not on the runway, but on the board of directors, where each vote could mean the end of the other's career. And in the midst of the chaos, an anonymous letter is sent to each member of the board, revealing that there is a mysterious figure pulling the strings behind the scenes, a woman who was once trampled by both Taylor and Brooke in the past, and is now back to claim it all. The anonymous letter arrived in a puff of smoke, but left an aftershock like an explosion. It was harsh, not intended as a threat, but as a declaration of war against both powerful women of Forrester Creations. I have watched you build an empire out of lies and self-deception. Now it is time to destroy that illusion. I will make you pay for what has buried me. There was no name, no address, just a strange mark stamped across the edge, the letters Evie in blood red ink. At first, everyone assumed it was a mind game. But a few days later, Donna reported a data breach at the design studio. A draft of the fall show had disappeared without a trace. Paris realized her email had been accessed illegally from an unknown IP address. Suspicion first fell on Thomas, then on Steffi, then on Zend. But then a devastating blow buried the speculation, an internal recording of Brooke and a strategic investor, a secret conversation about putting Hope in control of the independent product line, is leaked to the company's intranet. Soon after, a video collage of Taylor's scandalous past, from Darla's death to her clinic outbursts, is revealed. Their entire history is laid bare, not a single fragment left. The board is in an uproar. Shareholders are worried about the company's image. The media is involved. Stocks are down, reputations are shaky, and internal turmoil is brewing. Ridge is forced back in to stabilize things. But just as he's about to call an emergency meeting, there she is, the mastermind behind it all, the unlikely one, Eve Vaughn. The name is all but erased from Forrester's memory. She had been a young intern at the company, supervised by Brooke and Taylor in the early 2000s. But Eve was different from other interns. She was talented, ambitious, and had a burning desire to prove herself. Brooke once called her another Hope, only without the last name Logan. Taylor was wary of Eve's sharp wit, telling Ridge that she didn't just want a seat in the design room, she wanted a throne. When Eve proposed a groundbreaking idea for a line of interactive clothing, both women, Brooke and Taylor, had vetoed the idea. Not only that, they accused her of being overly ambitious, out of control, borderline psychopathic. Eve was quietly fired, without any formal explanation, and disappeared from the fashion world shortly thereafter. No one knew where she went, no one asked. But for the past 20 years, Eve hasn't disappeared. She went to Europe, to Japan, to factories, planning a long-term return. And now, not only did she return, she brought with her a team of lawyers, data scientists, hackers, and shadow investors. Eve didn't want to apologize, didn't want to forgive, didn't want to be recognized. She wanted to take over all of it. Eve made a public announcement. She had bought back 15% of the shares from small shareholders in recent months, enough to call a vote on a new CEO. She laid out a plan to restructure Forrester Creations, turning it into a platform that connected luxury fashion and blockchain technology, completely eliminating the old values based on family prestige and old-fashioned romance. Ridge was shocked, but there was no denying that Eve had prepared far beyond anyone else. Brooke was shaking with anger. Taylor was speechless, her eyes were broken. In that moment, they both realized that the real enemy is not each other, but a ghost from the past that they have created. But Eve doesn't need them to realize. She has won half the battle by forcing them to join forces to survive. The question is, do they still trust each other enough to fight their common enemy? And when Eve puts one final condition, I will step down if both Brooke and Taylor sign their resignations and leave Forrester forever. A silence hangs over the conference room like an invisible knife about to cut the fate of the two icons Logan and Hayes, as well as the future of Forrester Creations.